Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. As always, take a deep breath, relax. If your shoulders are tenth, I meant tense. Relax them. I accidentally did a Mike Tyson impression. Anyway, we'll be answering questions from the community as always, because those are people, how do we say? In many cases, the people that come to YouTube, as I usually say, haven't watched the videos or gotten into the quantum biology and all that. Maybe they were introduced to my food guru videos in the past, so they don't really ask the right questions, right? People in my community, they get the information transfer quite fast because I've got adequate resources over there for that to happen. We've also got calls going on over there where I can answer questions and point people in the right direction. And so because of that, the questions they ask are very different. Hello, Yami. Nice to see you. And so that's why I feel like when I make a live stream here, answering their questions is far more productive for both people on YouTube and them than if I were to answer the questions in the chat. Not that there aren't people on YouTube exclusively that won't ask great questions. No, I've seen great questions here. For the most part, of course, I'm going to get better questions over there. The thing is, many, how do I say, insecure young people do watch my channel because of the promise of becoming more attractive or sort of solving the issues that they deal with, the insecurities that they deal with. So many of the questions will be targeted toward, um, will be asked in the framework of I'm insecure, I need help with this aspect. And so that's why in many cases it isn't the right question, because in most cases it's not asked because it's a good question, it's asked because of fear. Hey, I watched all of your YouTube videos in 2 weeks, love all your information. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. The most important ones are in a certain playlist. Okay, it's called My Most Life Changing Videos. Those are going to be the most important ones. I would watch those and study those. Okay, and then the videos, basically all my videos after 2025, or from the beginning of 2025 and forward, are going to be great. Before that, I would say the water video, EMF video, but then it's too limited in terms of the perspective. We already have 20 people. That's awesome. Okay, let's start answering questions then. Again, this is from my school community. I make a post and they get to ask questions. Let's see here. It is known that raw seafood contains the anti-nutrient called thiaminase, which robs your body of thiamine. Is it that it's so usually if a food contains an anti-nutrient, in most cases it's not that it robs your body of thiamine. So I don't know if this is actually correct. It may not be that it robs the body of thiamine. In most cases, it's that it inhibits absorption. That is what most anti-nutrients do. Since this vitamin plays a crucial role in your mitochondrial well-being, especially what it does is it's needed for the enzyme. It's needed for several things, but mainly for the enzyme pyruvate dehydrogenase, so that you can create pyruvate, and that's basically the way you use glucose. What would your stance be in regards to this, especially knowing that you emphasize eating fish daily? I emphasize eating seafood. Fish is seafood. In order for optimal thiamine intake, how many times a week would you even suggest to eat pork? Thanks in advance. The school is really helpful and informative so far. So this is a new member. Thank you for your kind words, new member. Again, I try to keep every name private unless the person allows me to use their name, so I'm not going to mention who it is. I would say that it's not too much of an issue. Say it has this anti-nutrient. Seafood still contains adequate amounts of thiamine. And if you are eating pork, which is super high in thiamine, you won't really have any issues. I haven't seen anyone get that. Like, here's the thing. If you're in a very high carbohydrate diet and you're in a very high EMF environment, and this thiaminase is robbing your thiamine, I can see a thiamine deficiency perhaps developing, especially if you're not in the sun, because if you're not in the sun, I'm guessing your B vitamin requirements will be higher, because you'll need more methylation support. The sun takes care of methylation, or a large part of it, at least as far as I understand. You shouldn't really be too concerned. You shouldn't really be too concerned. I don't think anyone's going to get thiamine issues unless they start abusing the things I just mentioned. So indoor living, EMF, going to deplete your thiamine. Um, yeah, or eating a super high carbohydrate diet. Yeah, that's what I would say. So no real issues. Next question. Let's just check what's going on on YouTube. I just want to know. So my friends, I'm answering. My view is on it is in the school, so I'm not seeing the chat right now. But what I would suggest is that whenever you have a thought, write that down based on what I'm saying, share it if it's related to the topic, because that helps you learn. That keeps you engaged. That keeps you thinking about the things that are being said. Dr. Jack Cruz in his blog on how to in the cold thermogenesis protocol states that you must eat a high fat and high protein meal prior to cold exposure. Is it truly necessary to eat prior? Okay, so I'll give you my personal experience and I'll give you what I've heard Cruz say. So he says that if you're overweight, i.e., leptin resistant, it's a good idea to do so. You should do so. He said that when you're, as far as I understand, when you're leptin sensitive and you're not overweight, you fixed sort of the issues you came in with, you don't really need to do that. That's only for overweight people. What I would say is, if for some reason, you do it every day, and for some reason you feel like you're a bit cold or you're not doing well, of course, there are other issues there that are going on. But what I do feel is that whenever I do it, I liked to have, or I still like to have a meal in my stomach, at least from 4 hours prior or less, because I feel like I warm up more. I feel like I'm gonna burn that fat really well. My body knows, okay, we have a bunch of calories going in. We can sort of ramp metabolism up, and then you go in the cold and you're already in a good state, and now you're gonna ramp metabolism even more up, and now you're just creating this amazing light show on the inside, and you get all the POMC expression, and your reflux just goes through the roof. Also, in Brain Gut 12, he speaks of paleo dieters eating carbs to prevent hypothyroidism, and that iodine and seafood is the tool that should be used instead during winter. Correct. You need, as long as you, the reason why people get these issues eating low carb when carbs aren't growing is because they're not getting iodine, so just eating ruminant animals, which I think is an issue. I think many researchers, many DHA researchers, and iodine researchers would agree with me on that. Especially, Michael Crawford, etc. Again, Cruz has a bunch of citations in his blogs. Again, read Brain Gut 12 and Brain Gut 13. This wonderful member has read Brain Gut 12 as per my recommendation. But then why is hypothyroidism so prevalent throughout society? Okay, so this is just confusion. Okay, so just let me address the prior point. Cold exposure and iodine are going to make sure that your thyroid is fine. Okay, you need those two to make sure that T3 is high. T3 is your active thyroid hormone. And to be more specific, I'm talking about free T3. That's the real relevant one. But then why is hypothyroidism so prevalent? This suggests that the paleo dieters don't have hypothyroidism because they eat carbs, but then why is hypothyroidism so prevalent throughout society, especially since carbohydrates are the main micro? So this is very, very big confusion. This suggests that the paleo dieters don't have hypothyroidism because they eat carbs. Paleo dieters don't eat carbs. The paleo diet is a low to zero carbohydrate diet. They eat vegetables and they eat meat. That's the whole idea. And Cruz was talking about people in the paleo space recommending carbs for increasing free T3, because he was saying that people in the paleo space were saying that that these people are getting thyroid issues because they're not eating carbohydrates. He was arguing it's because you're just eating ruminant animals, and also because your environment is shit. But you're just eating ruminant animals and you're not doing any cold. Obviously, the cold was in a prior series. Here he's talking about how you need iodine for optimal T3. That's what you need. Um, Now here comes the other sort of mistaken thought. But then why is hypothyroidism so prevalent throughout society? Okay, so hypothyroidism can come in many forms. You can have TSH that's super high because your thyroid gland is literally being destroyed, and it can't really produce a lot of stuff. Thyroid hormones, that is. You can have an iodine deficiency. That's when you get the goiter. The thyroid gland is expanding so that it can suck up iodine. And of course, without iodine, you can't create the thyroid hormones. So that's another form of hypothyroidism. Again, the one I mentioned first would be something like Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's is, your sort of thyroid signaling. The whole organ is being destroyed because of usually electromagnetic pollution. Could also be pollution itself, but that's not as prevalent. In places that are very polluted, I can see how that's the case. It can happen, but in the most case, for the most part, I should say, it's because of electromagnetic pollution. Again, when Cruz was in residency, as far as I understand, we barely had any Hashimoto's. Now it's one of the most prevalent thyroid diseases. What changed? The biggest change was the technological advancement during this time. Literally says in his old textbook that it's a very rare disease, and now it's super not rare. What do people do? Phone. Look, there's the thyroid, blasting it with blue light. You know that red light therapy has a bunch of effects on your skin and on your mood, and there are a bunch of studies. What do you think blue light does? Also has biological effects, not good ones. In isolation. There are some people, I read a comment which surprised me quite a lot. Someone said that the blue light in the sun and the blue light from screens is equivalent. I mean, Jesus Christ. This is like saying that you yourself is equivalent. No, like a toddler in a house is equivalent to the toddler with their brother and sister and both their parents and their grandparents in the house. That's like saying that both situations are the same. No, the sun comes with a bunch of other wavelengths that stabilize the effects of blue light. Blue light in isolation is going to be an issue. It's like saying I'm going to take I only need or it's like saying, how do I say it? Thiamine is bad, or no, mercury in fish is super bad without taking into account the selenium that you're consuming. Selenium helps with mercury. Okay? It's not the same thing. It's not the same situation whatsoever. But let's continue. So, the last issue which we're talking about here is the fact that you can have a good TSH, right? Thyroid stimulating hormone. Your body doesn't think that it needs to produce a shit ton of thyroid hormone. You can have a good free T4, so adequate supply of the inactive hormone that's going to be turned to the active hormone. But you can have bad conversion, and that's what we're talking about right here. So there are many different types of things that could lead to your T3 being bad. In this case, we're talking about conversion. And when the issue is conversion, when you're not eating carbohydrates, you need iodine and cold exposure. That's what's going to help. Okay? So as far as I understand, the cold exposure specifically is going to boost up your TRH. And that's going to, again, make your thyroid gland produce adequate amounts of free or convert adequate amounts of T3. Actually, that happens in the liver, so it's a different story. And then he says, my favorite person of all time as well, attaching a picture of Cruz. Yeah, he's had a massive impact on my life, and I'm only grateful. I'm extremely grateful to the man. Now, before the next question, let's see what's going on YouTube. Hey! So again, just to say, I'm answering questions in my community, but here, because I think their questions are going to be really nice to answer. And the answer, yeah, exactly. And the answers to them, I think, are going to be more interesting to you than the average questions, the answers to the average questions in the chat. Nothing against you guys. I love you guys. But again, the more you study, the more you can ask the right questions in many cases. So I'm looking at those questions first. Okay, next question. In your guide to El Salvador video, which I do have. I should probably update it. You're recommended to buy fish from local fishermen. Yes. Isn't that fish going to contain all the sunscreen and pollution beaches have? All right, so a few things. The ocean is, this is not a excuse to say that we shouldn't pollute the, or we should pollute the ocean. No, pollution is a problem. We shouldn't pollute the ocean in any capacity whatsoever. However, the ocean is very big, especially the Pacific, where the seafood local to El Salvador is going to come from. And it's so big that you're barely going to have any issues as long as you're not right at the coast. And what do these fishermen do? The fishermen go in their boats far away from the coast. You can't fish right where the beach is because there barely are any fish. You will not be swimming there at the beach in the waves finding mackerel. You will not find mackerel there. You have to go out and find the mackerel and the corvina and the robalo and the dorado and the boca colorada. Those are the main fish that you're going to find here. So mackerel, two forms of sea bass, mahi mahi, and red snapper. Those are the main sort of fish you're going to find here. Those are going to be far away from the coast. Not very far away, but you need to travel 20, 30 minutes in the boat to get where you need to fish. So it's absolutely not an issue whatsoever. All right? I eat that every day and I feel fantastic. And I know a bunch of other people who do the same. Again, this is not to say that pollution is good or you shouldn't think about it. It's just that overthinking pollution is putting more distrust in your body than you think. You can handle it far better than you may realize, especially in a good environment. Here in Norway, or wait, shall I? Let me just see what this. Okay, let me see what this. Let me go back to YouTube first, or yeah, exactly, YouTube first, and see what's going on. And what I recommend is, again, I'm gonna say this once again. When you're listening to me answering these questions, think in terms of that. And don't think in terms of your own questions, because I'm not answering those right now. I'm answering the ones from school, from my community, and then try to ask questions in relation to that. Try to write notes in the chat related to that, new thoughts about that, etc. That's the way I would do it. I'll tell you when I'm reading the chat. Here in Norway, especially where I live now, where almost all of Norway's food production is centered, I have been recognizing more and more pollution in the air. She says the sea trails, that are left by certain people, which contain harmful substances to the human body. That affect vitality, fertility, and calcification of the pineal gland. Yeah, that's mainly going to happen through EMF, but yep, sure. Because again, you're going to mess up. What messes up calcium the most out of anything in our modern environment? EMF causes calcium efflux, causes calcium to go absolutely crazy. All right. I listened to a person that had observed pollution and took a sauna session later on the day. He saw that his aluminum levels had risen to 900% after that day. He tested it from his sweat. With this in mind, in general modern pollution, what is your stance on the use of sauna outside, and do you think it's bad using the sauna as a way to sweat out toxins? No, I mean, here's the thing. I don't see any issues with sauna. Just make sure it's the way it used to be done. Like the way they do it classically in Finland is just using geothermal energy, right? I think geothermal pools are great. I think any time you just are not relying on electricity and you're doing it the way people always did it in the past, you're gonna be having sort of a great situation going on. I think you should do it the way the Scandinavians do, that way, and also they go in the cold afterward and they sort of superset that. And In that case, if you're worried about, sweat reabsorption, which I don't even know about, to be honest with you, you're washing off every time you go into the cold, you're washing off all of that. And then you're going in again, and then you're getting all the benefits of cold exposure and the heat exposure, and sort of, if you've ever done this, again, I lived, I'm from Sweden, so I've done this several times, and it's an amazing feeling. So if you can do that in Norway, that's perfect. In terms of the way you deal with pollution today, it's quite easy. It's quite easy. Listen closely. Microplastics, mercury, whatever it may be. You optimize your detoxification pathways, okay? So don't think of it as I need to do something for detoxification to happen. In many cases, that's fine, but that's not the main system. Like the Pareto principle here, the 20% that's going to take care of 80% of it, or even more, probably the 10% that's going to take care of 90% of it, is your endogenous or are your endogenous detoxification pathways. What am I talking about? I'm talking about glutathione. I'm talking about melanin. As long as you have those two in check, you're good. How do you make sure those two are in check? You spend time outside. You get sunlight. Again, it comes back to energy. That's the whole point of my detoxification video. So the way I would reply to this person usually is watch my detoxification video. Although you can use sauna, although that's completely fine. You wanna boost the energy your cells can create so that you can have adequate levels of glutathione, and you want sun so that you can have adequate levels of melanin. Cold exposure is also going to help with that, so that you have adequate resources to deal with all this pollution. Of course, the more you avoid pollution, the less you need to deal with it, the better. The more mitigation you're doing, of course, avoid the pollution. But for the stuff you can't avoid, make sure to optimize your environment so that your cells aren't losing energy to it. You want to be, how do I say this? Imagine yourself as a tornado, right? And this tornado is optimized to get energy from the ground, from the magnetic field of the earth, and from the sun. And you put this tornado inside suddenly, and it's sort of not sucking up all this energy, so it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And when it gets small, because it's not detecting any of these things, it's not getting its energy sources, you know, you start getting the symptoms basically. The tornado stops looking like a tornado, it stops being powerful, all these things, I don't feel like a human being. I don't feel healthy. Well, what's going on? I can't run. I can't walk up the stairs. My skin is bad, and my hair is falling out. I have acne. My breath stinks. My digestive tract doesn't work. Well, what's going on? You are not in the environment that you need to be in for a human being. Again, you put the tornado outside, suddenly it's picking up energy again. Okay, it's getting stuff from the ground, getting the electrons, it's getting the magnetic field again. Because it's not in an apartment building anymore where it's very far away from the ground. It's getting the sunlight, and then picks up, picks up, picks up, picks up. And now this tornado starts to resemble the other tornadoes out there. Why am I using a tornado? Because it's a structure, it's a sort of, it's a dissipative structure. It organizes itself through chaos. Like all these energy sources, we could say they're not chaotic, really, but the energy is just going everywhere. But this structure can suck up the energy and create order out of it. And that's what the human body is. Okay, that's what I would say. Um, this is a good question. Or let me check YouTube once again between questions. Why the color of your hair is different? That's an interesting question. That is because the sun bleaches melanin, and so when you're in a high UV environment, you actually turn blonde. Okay, so my hair has turned lighter because I've been in strong sunlight, especially the tips over here. And it creates a nice effect. It looks nice. So I have no complaints. But you cut your hair, sort of that disappears, and then yeah, you know the deal. Hey, excellent health. Was there any interesting or important question that you managed to get answered by all the kids sing off camera? I love that you're talking about that man because I love that man. I think he's great. He's one of the best EMF people on the planet. Okay, him, Jeremy Johnson. There's another guy in the U.S. I can't remember. Jeremy Johnson's channel is called. I'll write it in the chat for you. EMF analysis. Just search for that. Guy's great. Okay, and then Ola Kitsing unfortunately doesn't have a channel, but I do have an interview with him. And if you want to work with him, his number and his email are in the video at the end. So go contact him. Literally, he's up for grabs. Okay, he's up for grabs. Go contact him. Ollie is a friend of mine. So I've had many questions answered by him. I've had many conversations with him. Yeah, that's what I would say. And he's like a wealth of knowledge. So in many cases, this is what I'm saying, that this is why I'm answering questions from school. Because the thing is, I can't ask him the right questions because of how much difference there is between me and him in terms of knowledge. That's the thing. I can't ask the right questions. So what I do most of the time is I ask him, what sort of things are you studying or figuring out, or sort of that? And then he goes into some advanced things that only an electrician would know of, because that's really the level you need to be at if you're going to be really, really good at EMF. And then I learn new things. Oh, okay, so this is how the power grid is set up. Oh, there's a hot and neutral, and okay, fiber optic doesn't, that's the way to bypass electricity, all these different things. How can I, this is perfect. This is exactly why I answer the school questions. How can I properly transition to raw meat if I don't really like, don't transition to raw meat. Don't. You don't need it. No one needs it. No one. It's a tool. Just like there are differences between olive oil and butter, there are even smaller differences between cooked meat and raw meat. Far smaller. But they're different. And so in certain situations, someone might feel better eating a certain way. But it's like you can't swim at all, right? And then you go and ask Michael Phelps, what glasses should I buy? That's not the right question. It's not going to make you a better swimmer. He's going to say, brother, you need time in the pool. You need time in the water. You need time getting those miles and refining your technique, filming yourself. That's what he's going to tell you. And the equivalent of that is analyze your environment based on the information presented in my videos. Now, if you want that to be faster, join the community. Again, there's a reason why I have the community. But you don't necessarily need to if you want to do the work on your own. Yeah, Cruz's blogs are out there. Let's go to the next question. When Solar Youth interviewed you, you said that your body takes snapshots of the time during sunrise and sunset to base your circadian rhythm on. What about daybreak and nightfall? Okay, so here's the thing. The body is amazing, right? So what I said was that if you have an animal and you expose them to light that mimics sunrise at a certain time and then sunset at a certain time, and the period in which between sunrise and sunset is short or long, they're gonna exhibit different seasonal biology based on the time of day, which is absolutely amazing. And if you didn't understand that, rewatch that later on, or watch which interview did I do? Where I talked about seasonal biology. Yeah, it's the one. It's How to Become Really Healthy 2, I believe that would be the one. That's when I go into seasonal biology. But other ones as well. But basically, depending on how long the day is, again, because the day varies in length throughout the year, seasonal biology changes. So even if you're not outside all day, if you just get sunrise and sunset, you will be setting the clock. Now, is it optimal? Clearly not. That's not what you should be doing. But it's better than just being inside all the time. You're at least getting sunrise and sunset. So when I say snapshot, I mean, say you were inside and then suddenly you've seen the sunrise and now you go outside at 1 p.m. and you've been inside all the time. Obviously, that's not good. But when you went out, the composition of sunlight at that time, and also the intensity as well, tells your body automatically, just because of how much brighter it is. Again, it's like 50 to 200 times brighter outside as opposed to inside, even though it looks like it's bright inside. No, it isn't. It's way brighter outside. Your body's gonna get the information of, oh, it's daytime, oh, it's not dark, oh, we are here in terms of the time of the day and the biology that we need to run in the circadian cycle. Yeah, we're at 1 p.m. right now. Okay, so it gets to understand that. Ideally, you don't give it any confusion by being inside and outside and blah blah blah, or not, or like switching, going inside a bunch. Outside is fine. Ideally, you're like a primitive or isolated person where you're outside all the time, because then the information flow is constant. The light dark cycles are, again, days super bright, night super dark. You always have the sunlight. It's always bright. You're always getting tons of photons. Your brain isn't being confused by it being a lot darker. Um, but so your question is, what about daybreak and nightfall? I mean, here's the thing. Ideally, yeah, you're gonna experience that as an animal. Any animal would do that as long as they're not in a dark environment, a cave, etc. But even then, their endogenous clock is gonna wake them up. Well, what do I want to say about that? I guess the more the transition is gentle, the less confused your body will be. So if you instantly went from completely dark to completely bright, that's quite a little bit of a it's fine, but it's a little bit of a shock. It's not really the way it happens in nature. The way it happens in nature is, as the sun starts to get closer to crossing the horizon, it starts to get a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter, and that light slowly tells your body to go from nighttime mode to daytime mode, instead of just giving it like that immediately, right? That's the benefit of daybreak and nightfall. It's happening in the most natural way possible, without too much of an abrupt signal. That's what I would say. Again, that's why usually the birds are already chirping while one is laying in bed, because we sleep inside. If we slept outside, or we got the same amount of light as the birds, we would probably be just as active as the birds at the same time. How can you learn about all of this? So this is an important thing. This is a very important question. Let me just go back to YouTube once again, because I like to say hello. Mm-hmm. Excellent, Seth. What would you say is the number one reason for tiredness over the day? Mitochondria that are sad. Mitochondria that are sad. that's that's it. It's either a signaling issue or the mitochondria themselves are broken. That's what it is. 100%, because those are the guys that produce your energy. And so either your body isn't sensing that there is energy, or there actually is a problem with energy. And so if you're tired, I mean, look at your environment. How are you living? How much does your environment resemble the environment of a primitive and isolated person? If you're inside all day, if you're in winter right now, because again, it's March, and you're never outside and you haven't done an ounce of cold exposure, 1,000,000% you're gonna be tired. Me doing cold exposure last winter, oh my god, the energy of I can't even describe the energy. Holy Jesus. What does Lindy mean? In any case, let's go back. How can you learn about all of the harmful things in our environment without worrying about it? I know a lot, but can only do so much, and it stresses me out and makes me worry. So, how do you not um, nocebo yourself? So, what he means is negatively be affected by placebo. Is it as simple as improving your internal state? So, what's very important to realize here is that your actions and the way you think about everything you're doing in terms of health have very little to do with the actual things you're doing. Okay, so if you have a negative connotation with, say, you see a cell tower, and because of me, now you're very scared of the cell tower. That has nothing to do with what's happening in reality. Okay. Your fear has nothing to do with the cell tower. It has to do with your perception of the cell tower. Okay. So it's all in how you're experiencing reality. And that's why I say there are many people who say, well, you become miserable, or, if you live like you're just going to be sitting there thinking about health. And this is an error in logical thinking. It's false equivocation. That's what it is. That's all it is. Just because you do everything really well does not mean that you're a person with orthorexia who's sitting there worrying about everything. Again, do I seem worried? No. Do I avoid artificial lights and EMF? Is my screen red? Do I have Ethernet on? Am I someone who eats very clean? Do I do all these things? Yes. Yes, I do all these things. Am I a worried person? Am I worried when, let's say last time I was at an airport wearing blue blockers, fasted and everything? No. Am I worried sitting in an airplane? No. I'm very relaxed. I sort of lean back and I try to meditate the whole time. Yeah, I'm far away from the magnetic field of the Earth, and I'm being fried by the cosmic radiation and all the Wi-Fi on the plane, but I feel fine. So here's the thing. If you can do something, here's your issue. I'm addressing this community member of mine. If you can do something about it, say your issue is Wi-Fi, and I've told you that Wi-Fi is an issue. If you're not dealing with it, and there are many easy ways to deal with it, you're just procrastinating. And that's why you're stressed. Deal with it. Order the things you need to order on Amazon, create the setup you need to create, and now you're good. You only need to do it once. That's it. If it's totally outside of your control, then you realize I can't do anything about it. So I'm just going to accept it for the time being. That's it. It's like the whole black pill thing. Yes, they find ways of changing their appearance, but there are certain things you can't change. At least most people can't change them. I guess if you have a lot of money, you can change many things. Sitting there and worrying about it would be quite irrational. It's the same thing here. It's not about the appearance. It's not about the scar. It's not about the action. It's about your relationship to all that. And that's why this dear community member who already knows my answer is saying, is it as simple as improving your internal state? The answer is yes. Pause for a moment and go, why the hell am I actually worried when I do not need to be worried? Again, if you have two people in the exact same place, like say you have someone who's super scared of spiders and you're not scared of spiders, and there's a spider in the room. Is it the spider's fault that the person is scared, or is it simply their perception and mental emotional patterns about the spider that is the problem? Clearly, it's not the spider, because there are many people who would be in the room that aren't scared. So it's not the spider eliciting the reaction. Spider has nothing to do with it. It's the person. It comes from here. This is the problem. If you're worried about anything in terms of health, your mind is the problem. The thing isn't the problem. Now, that said, say you've removed the worry, that doesn't mean you should be complacent and just, I'm going to use Wi-Fi. I'm not going to do anything about it. We don't need to worry. No, change that. You can be what's the optimal? What's the absolute optimal? The yin yang symbol. Okay, yin stands for recovery, nighttime, all that. Yang stands for action, the sun. all that. And so you get the yin, which is the calmness, the relaxation, but you don't lose the yang, which is the action, which is the planning, which is the improvement, right? Have a balance of both. And that's the, I was going to say Trinity, but it's not a Trinity. It's the perfect way to do things. Calm, relaxed, in a flow state, and you're getting a lot of things done. That's the way you do things in terms of health. And will you, if you're struggling with this, will you be able to do this just from the get-go? No, of course not. But with practice, you'll get better. You'll get calmer. What's your stance on viruses and bacteria causing disease? Do you think Argenis was correct about germ theory being false? The more I've looked into that, the more I realize that it's a blend of both. It's definitely a blend of both. It must be. There are many situations where I see that terrain prevails. You know, the environment of the microorganism is going to be the issue, the pollution is going to be the issue, 100%, 1000%. But there are definitely microorganisms that can cause us issues. Well, amigo. The example that I've heard Jack Cruz use is MRSA. So what does that stand for? Let me see. Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. And so if you inject that, that's a bacteria that you inject, causing you issues. There's no terrain there. The terrain is your own body and just bacteria. That's it. But you're going to get issues. Right? Yeah, that's what I would say. So it's not all germ theory. It's not all terrain theory. There's definitely a blend of both. That's my opinion. Okay? Subject to change as I learn more. What are your thoughts on this post from Jack Cruz? I've been thinking about it a ton since I first saw it. Here's it typed out, but the post is also is attached. So Dr. Jack Cruz, Danish theoretical physicist Niels Bohr's personal diary, examined after his death, contains this entry about his meeting with, I want to pronounce this name correctly. Anandamayi Ma. Met an Indian holy woman today. She asked me to explain quantum. So now the quote from Niels Bohr begins. Met an Indian holy woman today. She asked me to explain quantum superposition. I did the observer effect, wave particle duality, and the measurement problem. When I finished, she smiled and said, "So your science has finally discovered what we've known for 5,000 years. Consciousness collapses possibility into actuality. The observer creates the observed. You are the universe observing itself." Then she laughed. I couldn't speak. How did an uneducated village woman articulate in 30 seconds what took me 30 years to understand? There's a quote by not Shinzen Young, but the guy from like 100 years ago, something like that. And unfortunately, in the quote, what he says didn't happen really. I don't know if it was suppressed or whatever happened, but he's correct about it. And he said that one of the biggest, most substantial transformations of Western society will be when Western society discovers Buddhism. And everything that's been written here, if you go into the Buddhist literature, which again, it's not a religion, it's just people, just like us, sitting here talking about health, talking about consciousness itself and all these things about us actually, how much we actually filter reality. Like I look at a spider and I have all these associations. What is the spider exactly? What am I experiencing just as an image? I need to use my mind to interpret that that's a spider. So, how am I observing reality really? I'm interpreting everything using my mind. And so I'm filtering everything using my mind. Well, what happens if I don't filter? What happens if I stop filtering everything using my mind? The mere, this entire idea, yes, you have about this being planet Earth, this being life, this being reality, is all a thought. What is true is that there is something going on right now. You are conscious. Whatever constitutes this, you're interpreting using your mind. But the things that are arising in consciousness themselves, without interpretation, what's that? And once you get to maybe that point, which might take a little bit of practice and observation, the sentence, consciousness collapses possibility into actuality, the observer creates the observed, you are the universe observing itself, will make a ton of sense. Now, I won't claim that I have reached the level where I can clearly and see this. Do I have short experiences where I've sort of a meditation where I've gotten to stuff that can be interpreted that way? Sure. But this entire sentence of, for example, you are the universe observing itself makes a huge amount of sense to me. Like that is literally the way it happens. But I won't go into that too much. How long have you been? Let's visit YouTube once again. Again, make sure your posture is good. Make sure you're breathing. Relax your shoulders. Expand as I don't understand. The Book of Not Knowing by Peter Ralston. There you go. There you have it. That's all you need if you want expansion. Let's go to the next question. If one is using screens, this is a good question, I think. If one is using screens after sunset, uh, I don't know about that, and they are already blocking the blue and green light from the screen, is it more optimal to use the screen in complete darkness or with a dim red light in the background? Okay, so we need to establish a few things here because I'm not seeing them addressed by my dear community member here. You can't just wear blue blockers and have a screen that's emitting blue light. This screen needs to also be have a physical filter or a software filter where the screen is completely red and you use blue light blockers. Why? There might be a little bit of blue leakage, right? So you need the blockers. And also, your skin is circadian sensitive. So you need to make sure that it's not getting any bad light on it. It's not just your eyes, it's all of your skin as well. And it's also brightness in general. So that's why he's saying dim red light in the question. So the question is, if I'm doing all that, my screen is red, and also you need to think about flicker. If there's flicker, your cortisol is always going to increase, and most likely thing I can see is that yes, your melatonin will be suppressed by the flicker, just by the nature of how this stuff works. Because obviously, if melatonin helps you sleep, and someone breaks into your house, and your adrenaline and your cortisol jump up, that will probably suppress your melatonin, right? So if that's the case, then flicker, which sort of tells your brain that disturbing, it's a very disturbing phenomenon to the brain, right? that will probably suppress your melatonin. Do I have any studies on that? I haven't looked at anything, but there are many people who seem to do better when they remove all the flicker. In any case, is it more optimal to use the screen in complete darkness or with a dim red light in the background? Okay, so this is what you do. Okay, this is what I do, I should say. If I use it in complete darkness, there's too much of a contrast between the screen and the background lighting, which is bad for the eyes. So if I'm gonna use my phone, and what I usually do is, of course, it's on airplane mode. It's emitting absolutely nothing. Screen is red, blue blockers on, and my light is, I think, 670 nanometers only. Small reading light, flicker free. Yeah, flicker free. I use that. I have that on. Then I turn on the screen, and what I do is I just put on something to listen to, like a podcast, just so that I can absorb information. Then I turn off the lights. Obviously, the screen phone is turned off. I'm just laying there listening in the dark without any EMF, clearly. So I would say dim red background when you're using the screen, but then if you're listening to something, which you should be, just turn the light off as well. Mm-hmm. This question is too specific for the live stream, but this is about Starlink. Um, the person is asking, because the Starlink communicates with the satellite, right? And it's a beam that's emitted upward. And he's asking, what about below the dish? And the answer is, I don't know. But I guess when you make a dish, because I said that you can sort of make a Faraday cage, not a full Faraday cage, of course, that would make it so that you don't have any internet, but you can block the sides, right? When you're blocking the sides, for the most part, I can see how you could also block below. You can block below as well. And if you do that, then you're going to mitigate anything that might potentially be going below the dish. And yes, there's probably some leakage below the dish, but probably not that much. How would possible radiation from below the dish be properly blocked? Yeah, you just put something below with a hole so that whatever cables and whatever thing can adequately go through the dog collar. Like again, with a dog collar, we're talking about putting a dog collar on the Starlink basically, and so the neck of the Starlink is going to be small, so you have a small hole so that everything can pass through. I've done some research, and the cheapest meter that could possibly measure the full spectrum dish radiation starts at $13,000. The Rode and Schwartz FSH18 handheld spectrum analyzer, which can measure up to 18 gigahertz. Oh my god, man, that sounds like the dream. If anyone here, okay, I'll just put this out there. If anyone wants to buy me that, I'll be doing some experimentation for you so that we can all get some adequate information about this thing. Let me just say that. But having that EMF meter, oh my god, I'll be making videos with that thing. Jesus. I don't know. I'm gonna put the name in the chat. You guys need to see the name of this thing. As always, we have some skin questions, but look at that thing. Look at that thing. Rode and Schwartz FSH18 handheld spectrum. I need to take a look at how this thing looks. This thing is probably beautiful. Holy! This doesn't look like a normal EMF meter. This thing looks like something from the 90s. Looks like a calculator. Man, what a tool. And I thought that was cool for having an e-smog. Jesus. Thank you for your research, sir. God damn. Now continuing, the Safe and Sound Pro 2 could supposedly detect downlink in some cases, but uplink according to some. But I doubt it. It only possesses the TF2. I only possess the TF2. Oh yeah, you can't just possess the TF2 if you're gonna be sort of doing measurements like this. The Safe and Sound Pro 2. Okay, so I'll tell you what's very interesting is you see your boy right here has actually we when you live with people like I do, AMF becomes a big deal. And so I've used the Safe and Sound Pro 2 to measure a Starlink, and there is no detectable thing because the Safe and Sound Pro 2 can't measure up to that. And even then, you'd think that there might be some spike, but there's absolutely nothing, interestingly enough. So it can't measure it. It's either not measuring it or there's, you know, it's just hard to say, to be honest with you. But it can't measure it, no. TF2 will not be able to measure it. And I don't know of any meter that can measure it, unfortunately. Except that one. So his question is, I thought I love how I said that it was too specific, but it's just the question is too good. Because look at how much effort this man has put into sort of asking me this. Would it be better for me to stick to my Starlink setup, Wi-Fi on the Starlink router turned off, with a dish mounted on the roof about 12 meters above me, about 60 meters away, in the case that I use my laptop outside, and 6 meters above me in the case that I use my laptop in my room? Or should I switch to a modem that emits no Wi-Fi and connect it to my Romania-based ISP? Only issue being is that the only possible way of getting internet access here to my modem is through the antenna mounted on the outer wall of my room. No fiber optic access. I'm simply wondering which option would risk less radiation in your opinion. The Starlink dish is evidently very expensive to accurately measure, and it raises many question marks. So, only issue being is that the only possible way of getting internet access here to my modem is through the antenna mounted on the outer wall of my room. Okay, so this antenna is already routed there. That antenna is receiving. So there you've answered your question. When you have an antenna or a satellite dish, that's a receiver. And you get a specific sort of, how do we say, code, or they open it up so that you can receive that signal and actually use it. Otherwise, you're receiving it, but it's blocked. You're always receiving it. It's like, how do I explain this? So if you don't have a SIM card, you can, or your SIM card, you have no money in it. If it's like one that you need to fill up, you're not gonna be able to fill up the thing, or you're not gonna be able to call, right? But the signal is still there, and the phone has full capabilities of picking it up. But it is once you fill it up that you can actually use it. So it's the same thing here. You paying or you connecting through your Romania-based internet service provider will allow you to just receive what's already there. So you're all good. And so I would probably do it that way. I would do your Romania-based ISP and I would sell the Starlink. Starlink is better for people who are on the countryside. That's what I would say. Great question. I'll actually write that to you. Great question, and thank you for putting the time and effort into researching and writing this, my friend. That's what happens when you're in Central America. You get big fat bugs flying in your face while you're live stream. Not that it's an issue. Let's go back to YouTube. Let's see what's going on. How long have you been going? Oh, 59 minutes. We'll do. Okay, so this is what I'll do. I'll answer another question from school, right? And then I'll answer maybe 2 questions here. But I'll answer the best questions. So no height stuff. No, I have acne. What should I do? Like if you have skin issues, there is an acne video that you watch and you implement that. If you watch it and you don't understand it, watch it again. If you want my help, you can, like, in a more do-it-yourself way, you join the school community. If you want me to hold your hand and pull you through, to the other side where there's no acne, you can do a consultation. You don't need to, but you can. Um, but those questions are already answered. Mhm. Jack Cruz says in his leptin resistance article that you should exercise after 5 p.m. But since men have high testosterone in the morning and the most UV is during the day, why should we only exercise after 5 p.m.? I don't think it makes sense. Okay, so testosterone, this idea of you don't need to exercise when your testosterone is the highest. That's simply the way the circadian cycle is gonna go. That's all. That's because your sex hormone production happens in the morning. The most amount of pregnenolone, that's what's so difficult. Progesterone, testosterone, DHEA. Again, DHEA comes first on testosterone. All that is going to be produced the most in the morning. That's why those levels are going to be highest in the morning. Okay, UV actually stops the sex hormone production because you can't. If you produce too much, that's an issue. Um, Later in the day, based on circadian research, between 3 and 5 p.m. is the window where you're the most optimized for exercise, for physical performance, more specifically. And this, you also write in the morning and the most UVs during the day. Doesn't it, just because there's a lot of UV doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best time to move. Actually, I could see an argument for moving later in the day because when the UV is the highest, it's also the hottest. If it's very hot, your semiconductors aren't working as well. If it's cooler, it's way easier to move. That's why in many cases, like I was looking at I think it was a Hudson documentary. They said that they began the hunt early on so that before it got too cold. Sorry, before it got too hot. They didn't want to do stuff when it was hot. They wanted to do stuff early when it wasn't hot. Um, I don't think it makes sense. Well, it does make sense because one thing, the reason you're trying to avoid exercising in the morning, at least, I can't answer for the whole thing, but I know that the reason why you avoid exercising in the morning is because it's a time where your cortisol is already high. And so you don't want to do a double whammy on the cortisol. Oh, so, this is actually, I know how to explain this quite well. It is because your testosterone is the highest in the morning that you don't want to exercise. See, what's going to happen in the morning is that you're going to be creating this pregnenolone, right? And that's also going to be, as I said, the time where you create all your sex steroid hormones. Again, your pregnenolone, your progesterone, your DHEA, your testosterone, etc. There's something called pregnenolone steal syndrome. So pregnenolone can turn into all these things that you like, right? You want it to turn into the DHA and then the testosterone. You want the testosterone, right? What happens is that your cortisol is also produced from the pregnenolone. So if you have cortisol levels that are too high, elevated for any particular reason, it could be that this was 1,000 years ago and you were very stressed out because of some kind of situation. And again, although there was no uh, electromagnetic fields back then, there was still a lot of stress because you were creating it psychologically. Maybe. Not everyone was like that, but it could be created psychologically, and that's why you have people balding back then. Not the only reason, but again, that argument against the EMF, people balding back then is the reason why it can't be EMF in modern society. This is the reason why that argument doesn't make any sense. But no, if you double whammy your cortisol, you'll have more pregnenolone going to cortisol, okay? And so less to your sex steroid hormones. And so your hormones will just crash. And so that's why you want to be sort of careful in the morning. Now, if you're outside all day and you're really healthy and your levels are perfect and you're basically naked the whole time you're outside and you live like a primitive human being, it's not gonna matter. But in modern society, you want to sort of if you want to optimize stuff, chill in the morning. Just chill in the sun in the morning, ideally naked. That's gonna be the best. All right, those are the questions for today from the community. Let's go here. How many children do you want? What? That's an interesting question. How many do I want? It's gonna depend. It's gonna depend. Like it's something I'll know once I've found the right woman and I'm in the right place and the sort of state of the world is clear to me at that moment. And the state of the world is in a way where I know that for the time being the children aren't gonna be in a bad environment during their most important years. But if I find a safe environment and a woman I can trust, someone with a good heart that will be a good mother, yeah, then maybe I can see myself having. Because the thing is, we want us health conscious people to have more children on average so that we can have more health conscious people in the world. So it would be a service to have like 5 children. So I'm thinking, yeah, 3 to 5. I think if you look in the past or at the past, usually families were bigger, and I think that's the way it's supposed to be. Um, I think you can have more influence on the world doing that. While if I just have 1 or 2 children, family will stay small. We won't have as much reach, and I think because of what I do, really, I think I can sort of create a family unit that can do quite a lot in the world. That's sort of the way I think about it, at least. And I hope you young men and women also feel that way. That you can also that you'll have children and that you know for certain because of what you guys have in your hearts that you can pass that on to your children and sort of have create really good human beings. Sometimes you meet someone and they're just a really nice, intelligent, great person, right? I'm hoping that in your heart you want to produce more of those people in the world. Great question. Any fix for hyperhidrosis? There's a post by Jack Cruz on Twitter where he goes over this. It's palm C dysfunction. You need more sun. AM sunlight more specifically, and you'll fix it. Oh, okay. Perfect ending. Perfect ending. Perfect ending. Perfect ending. Would you recommend white meat over red meat for someone starting the primal diet if they have digestive issues? Not gonna matter. Not gonna matter. And not gonna fix your digestive issues at all. You're looking in the, how do I say this? You see this bag? There's nature over there. That's where you need to look, right? The way you've asked this question is you're basically looking in this bag like this. This is all you're seeing when it comes to fixing your digestive issues. And this is nothing against you. This is not an insult to you in any way. This is just to illustrate what it is that's happening right now. You're uninformed, and so it's not your fault. It's no one's fault. It's not your fault that you have these digestive issues. You just don't know what to do. You have no idea what to do. What you need to do is watch my acne video. That's you could say my updated. So the acne video, I'll write this down. Acne video, that's number 1. And then the second, first interview with Dr. Jack Cruz. That is what you watch if you have these issues. You watch that and your digestive issues will be gone. I have spoken to many people in Central America, right, that have come down because of issues, and they all report that they did not change anything in their diet. They were already eating well, which you probably are. And their digestion is the most noticeably improved thing. The most noticeably improved thing. And that's not just because they're in Central America, that's because of the way they live down here. That's easier to do the things you need to do at a lower latitude. You also get more of the resource that you need, which is UV and infrared. Okay. But watch those two, because I can assure you that the native people here can eat plantains and beans and rice, and they do not have a single ounce of digestive issues. Am I telling you to eat those foods? No, I'm not telling you to eat those foods. I'm saying that despite eating those foods, they have absolutely no issues whatsoever. So, how come they have no issues eating these foods and are getting no issues? And you have old people that have eaten that way all their life and they have no issues, and you who are eating basically carnivore, maybe even considering raw meat, has digestive issues. How does that make sense? You have to ask yourself the question, if there are exceptions to this rule that I have in my head, which is you need to eat well to have no digestive issues, how come there are these exceptions? How do you explain that? And the only thing that explains it is the fact that it's not the nutrition itself, it is something else that's causing it. Of course, the more issues you have, the more you need to dial down nutrition. I'm not saying that it won't be a lever to pull. I'm just saying that it's not the main thing. There we go. That was a good one. That was a really good one. I hope you enjoyed this one. What should we name this? The solution to all your problems. I didn't read that in the chat. That just came up in my mind. But with that said, my dear friends, thank you for hanging out here. I hope you learned a lot. And God bless all of you. And I hope to see you in the next one. You're all wonderful human beings. And you're doing great things in the world. May God be with you.